never say that we are not industrious here in Centerville City.
And then Chair, would you just verify the roll call vote?
Yes. Okay, so we're officially live. Becky, unmute it for just a second. We're going to take, welcome to our meeting. We're going to take a roll call just because we're having Becky sign in remotely. So we have Logan and Thomas and myself that are present here, and we also have Becky appearing. No, this is Becky.
Oh, sorry, Becky. Duh. Sorry.
Logan is trying to call you Gina, Becky. Okay, and we have Becky Wright as well. So Becky, if you'll just acknowledge your presence.
Yes, I am here. Thank you so much.
Great. And we'll go ahead and call to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is going to be the most humorous meeting we've had. Okay, and I've asked Commissioner Johnson to give her thought or prayer tonight, so I'll turn the time over to him.
Thank you. I'd opt to just give a prayer if that's okay.
Thanks.
Dear Father in heaven, we're grateful that we could meet as a commission. We're grateful also that we could meet with the council prior to this. We ask thee to bless us that we may make decisions and discussions that take into account the best interests of the citizens of this city and the interests of our professional statuses, and the insights that we would have. We ask thee to bless us to do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. And we'll turn to our first item on the agenda, which is the commission is being asked to consider the proposed conditional use permit for Sydney's Pet Grooming, which is a kennel use to be located at 663 West Marketplace Drive. And I'll turn the time over to Steph.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Commission, as indicated to you, this is a request for a conditional use permit, and it's defined as a kennel in our zoning ordinance, and so a kennel use is conditional use. Just by way of introduction, the applicant would like to open up a pet grooming salon. This is over in the Marketplace development, and I believe it's the suite where, is it Menchie's, the yogurt shop? Is that how you pronounce it? Menchie's was located. They can correct me if it's wrong, but it's in one of those two suites on the end over by the Big Five Sports. They'd like to open up their pet grooming business. In our ordinance, we condense a number of services of that type for animals into what we define as a kennel. So kennel use is conditional use in the CVH zone, and that's why this petition is before you. In looking at the ordinance standards, the concept of a conditional use is to look at potential impacts and see what is needed to mitigate those, to reduce the issues that might be associated with a particular use. And so you have an overall development standard called evidence, and you look at the evidence to see if it's mitigated through the other factors outlined in the ordinance. So I tried to provide you a scope of those arguments by ordinance. But in summary of the report, our review of the application shows it's a limited kennel. Kennel has a broad spectrum of opportunities, overnight lodging and boarding and care of animals of that nature. This one is being stated that they want to do the grooming portion and are not operating the other elements of the kennel. So we've treated it from that perspective. They can address that from as they talk about their business operation, but we viewed it that the grooming was the limited element of the kennel, and we crafted our recommendation around that. With that limitation, we make the argument that the grooming, the salon and grooming of pets is a compatible use in the area. We point out that we have another grooming as an accessory use in the PetSmart in the Marketplace. And so we don't feel the suitability, the harmony, the impacts are greater given this use. We did notice in the application that the applicant indicated that it is their intention, since this is a tenant space, so it's a portion of the building, it's their intention of their own accord initially to put up some sound wall against the tenant space. And we use that as a catalyst of that they're looking at what their impact from their business standpoint would be, and we've accepted that they're taking that effort to mitigate that sound on the common wall of the tenant space of their project. So from our standpoint, unless you have specific questions, we've recommended approval, that it has this limited for pet grooming, and specifically disallows or prohibits the other type of uses, because we did not review those other types of uses. But we do recognize in our recommendation of approval that if that changes, they could come back in and amend their conditional use permit for the kennel use, and we would determine if additional mitigation needs to take place. So we're recommending approval.
Thank you very much. Will you pass my phone back to me? Thanks. All right, now we have Becky back. Any questions for staff? If there are none, we'll invite the applicant to step forward and speak to this matter. And no questions for Becky. If you'll just go ahead and go over to the mic. Logan, will you just take that over so Becky can hear? We appreciate you accommodating the phone issue today.
Oh, no problem.
So we have our remote member joining in. If you'll just introduce yourself for us.
Okay, so my name is Kimberly Sreesark, and like Mr. Snyder was saying, I'm going to be opening a pet grooming salon in the area. It's basically, our concept is basically a hair salon for pets. So we don't do any kenneling, no overnights, we don't do daycare. We groom about 4 to 6 dogs at a time, so we'll have about 4 to 6 in the salon. The clients will come in, drop their dogs off, we bathe them, we groom them, they're in the salon for about 3 hours at a time, and then we send them home.
Do you have a place for them to do their business?
There is, on the one side, there's a whole big grass area. That's kind of why I picked that location. So if we do have to walk them out on a leash, we can walk them out there, but I always make sure that everything is really clean and smells good, so that's one of the things that we make sure our salons are very clean and they smell nice. So.
Any questions for the applicant?
No questions for me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This matter has been scheduled for a public hearing, so we'll take the opportunity to open the public hearing and invite any member of the public who wishes to speak to this matter to step forward. Seeing no one step forward, we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion, debate, questions for staff?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, so.
Yeah, Becky, any questions for you?
I think this seems pretty straightforward and sounds like a fun business idea.
Great, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion.
I hereby make a motion for the Planning Commission to approve the conditional use permit for an accessory kennel use for Sydney's Pet Grooming located at 663 West Marketplace Drive, with conditions 1 through 4 in the staff report and the reasons for the action A through D, which is also found in the staff report.
I second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or debate? If not, we'll start with Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
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 And the motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, moving right along to the next item on our agenda. The commission is being asked to consider the proposed final subdivision plat for Jewel Creek Place, which is a 3-lot residential subdivision located at approximately 641 East, 200 South, and we'll turn the time over to staff.
Thank you. All right, so you guys are probably familiar with this plat by now, and I do just want to remind you guys that I did make some last-minute changes just in the numbering and deleting of some repetitive conditions from the first staff report I sent out. So the conditions didn't change from the corrected staff report that I sent earlier today. But there is just like a little bit of different numbering involved. So
Cassie, can you clarify, because when I went online and reprinted my packet, and there are 2 reports that look a lot the same.
yeah, so it's only in the conditions that anything was edited.
Okay.
And the right one should just be 1 through 8.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at this, the correct report.
Yeah, so I downloaded it as well, Cassie. So it looks like we have two reports back to back to the same.
Yeah, one of them's called corrected PC
Okay.
staff report
Where does it say corrected?
in the cover sheet. So it's it'll be the second one,
Okay,
the second report that's listed
got
there.
it, thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, this is on 200 South. This is county property. And previously, well, there is kind of an old detention pond here, now owned by the city, and there is some land to the east of these properties that is now owned by the city as well. So we're planning on maintaining this as open space and a trail here that's in the hands of Centerville right now. And these 3 Davis County properties will be subdivided into single-family lots. So there was just a few conditions left over from the preliminary subdivision. They're still monitoring the groundwater on these lots. So they do want to wait until like spring when that is established to measure that and then put the elevation on the plat. So they know where to like build their basements and stuff like that. So that's still to be determined. And the buildable area was left as a condition from preliminary, but seeing that these lots are larger than normal residential low lots, like they're 0.3 acres, instead of the typical like 0.25 or something around that. So we weren't concerned about the buildable area, which is only a minimum of 2,000 square feet. So sometimes that's noted on the plat, other times it's not. In this case, I didn't feel that it was necessary to ensure that exact square footage. But we do just have really some really minor revisions to the plat before it's recorded at the county, so.
Thank you very much. You'll pass Commissioner Wright back down this way. All right, any questions for staff?
No, thank you. Thank you. No, maybe stuff for debate later. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Commissioner Wright, any questions for staff?
No questions for staff.
Okay, we'll go ahead and invite the applicant to step forward and speak to this matter. If you'll just introduce yourself for us, will you hand that down so she can hear?
Thank you, Commissioners. Tony Thompson with Davis County Property Management. Been here a few times with you and I appreciate being here. Welcome. The opportunity to speak to you and your staff and your attorney here has been very helpful getting through this process, so appreciate them. I would just have one question to clarify, and that is on the ground watering. My understanding is that was just kind of a staff recommendation through the development review and wasn't necessarily a planning commission requirement. Is that,
I'll let Corey answer that one.
It's a staff concern, you're right, it's not, it wasn't, we raised the matter with the planning commission in our last meeting talking about the city engineer's concern for twofold. The easement for the berming associated with the flood control issue. And I think we also mentioned in the presentation to them talking about the groundwater infiltration that could occur. And our city engineer reiterated those concerns. I know that there's the informal process of what's the city engineer has been working with you and putting the pipe into the ground, but Kevin still wanted to make sure that that was understood as part of his review and approval of the plat. So,
okay, that monitoring well is in place. My public works director has indicated to me that is in place. I haven't been by the property to verify that personally, but I take his word that it's there. So, when you say a wet cycle, what kind of a time frame are you looking at for a wet cycle?
that's something that we have to discuss with the engineer. He seemed comfortable to move forward, but he was uncomfortable saying that 2 weeks into the ground was sufficient to determine what the water level was. So I think if I recall our DRC discussions, our Development Review Committee discussions, is that as you go in and start constructing those, any subdivision improvements or laterals and so forth that would take place in the bonding, they would keep checking that monitoring well.
Okay. The reason why I ask those questions, there's a lot of interest in this property, so it's, to put one of the lots not on the market is going to be a question that's going to be asked to me. So I'm just getting my homework answers there as to that, because weekly I get calls on this property, as probably your staff does too, of when's it going to be available for final plat approval. And
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's a great question to be addressed as we get through the final with the city council and
Okay.
clarify how long their expectation is for that monitoring, so you have a clearer understanding.
right.
So I've done a lot of monitoring wells in the past, and typically the wet cycles to the end of the spring. That's usually when the groundwater is the highest.
Mhm.
Once all the snow melt runoff has passed and soaked into the ground. So I would anticipate Kevin would want to see it through to the end of spring.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for him, but that's usually what it is.
And I think he's mentioned that reference.
Yeah, okay. I just clarifying that question as to what's there. So speaking with your city manager, it sounds like I've got a little bit of provider sheets to round up and get to you as to before where this will be considered complete and ready to go to city council. So I think there's a few weeks there to study that, and we'll probably be into April by the time we get into the city council, and we'll have had a chance to maybe have a few of those wet days that we're anticipating, so we can watch that and get kind of a basis and some data on that for the city. So your staff has reviewed this quite well. I appreciate their report. They've been very on top of things. I think we're just got a couple of little things on their recommendations that are very acceptable to complete and get that in place before moving forward. So.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant?
Thank
If
you.
not, thank you very much. And this matter has been scheduled for a public hearing, so we'll take the opportunity to open the public hearing and invite any member of the public who wishes to speak to this matter to step forward. Seeing no one step forward, we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion or debate?
So I don't see a condition on here for the monitoring of the groundwater. Did I miss that?
So it's addressed in note number 1. Just the exact number hasn't been determined because we're not at the end of the cycle right now. So I don't know how explicit Kevin wants to be on that note,
Okay,
which is why I left it as open-ended.
okay.
Any further discussion or debate? Commissioner Wright?
No questions for me.
Okay, if not, the chair will entertain a motion.
I've never done this before, do I?
Yep.
Read this?
You just say, I hereby make a motion,
All right.
read it along.
I hereby make a motion for the Planning Commission to recommend approval to the City Council of the final subdivision plat for the Dual Creek Place subdivision with the following conditions as
1
listed,
through
1 through 8. And do I need to do the suggested
Yes.
reasons? And the suggested reasons for the actions A through C.
Second. Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or debate?
I appreciate that we've had the extra work from Cassie on that Dual Creek information, so thank you for that. I'm in favor of the motion and think it will be a good situation.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go ahead and start. We'll roll call. We'll put you, Commissioner Wright, last. So we'll start with Commissioner Hunt.
Aye.
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 All right, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. And Commissioner Wright, we appreciate you for joining us via telephone. Given that we're a little short on Planning Commission members today, I am going to move that we table all of the remaining items on our agenda, and we'll push those to the next Planning Commission meeting, except for the ordinance review. I understand that Lisa is going to be gone the next meeting, so we'll just push that one off to the meeting thereafter.
Well, do you want to do
I second that motion.
the
Oh, sorry.
ordinance and the training?
We can do the training without you. We love you, Lisa, but we can just put on the video. So,
She got sad.
I know she did get sad, I'm sorry. So, with,
She
all,
wants to watch Meg Ryan's videos.
she does want to watch Meg Ryan's videos.
It's Brent Bateman.
This one is Brent Bateman, so we're okay. All those in favor of tabling the remaining matters to our next commission meeting, say aye.
Second, aye.
Oh, yeah, second, aye. Any opposed? All right, and I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.